Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Beltway was nice to me today. Oh. It did not take me a million years to get from Ashburn to here. The team did not put a practice time that made it conducive for me to see a ton of it, though. Yep. So, just lodging a personal complaint. But whatever.
You missed the Quan Martin freak-out play. Did you happen to see that on the old Twitter machine? Mm-mm. Apparently, he tipped a Marcus Mariota pass up and then caught it with both hands behind his back.
Oh, that's fun.
So that was the one everyone was freaking out about on all the beat writers.
Have we seen it? Is there a video of it? Oh, they weren't allowed to film that part. They were done filming at that part?
Right.
So they open up the practices, and then there's a certain point where they tell you can't film anymore.
Right.
Which,
exactly.
Makes Kime unhappy. Can't get his clips.
Well, I mean, it does garner attention. So,
it does garner attention. All right. I'll ask people about that. I'll be out for the full show tomorrow.
There you go.
They moved it up to 11 o'clock, so I'll get the full show. And I don't know why I'm telling you that, because you can't go. Yeah. So I'll be there. I'll be one of the media people that's allowed to be there.
I was going to say as well, we've got Orioles baseball tomorrow, too. So you even had a buffer had it been at a normal time,
total buffer.
Too.
I could take my time.
That's right.
My good old time coming back from ye old Ashburn tomorrow. So I'll tell you about practice, or what the parts I saw in a little bit. I want to talk a little bit more about Terry McLaurin, who spoke apparently for 20 minutes yesterday.
Yes, he did.
And Jayden Daniels is talking now.
Yep.
So we'll wait and see if he says anything of note, and we'll relay that to you as that's happening. But I do want to start with Jerry West passing away today. So this is the second major basketball legend that has passed away in a week. Bill Walton and now Jerry West. And I think there is an argument that Jerry West may be the most consequential person to ever be part of the NBA, maybe outside of Michael Jordan. But he also accomplished things that Jordan could not. He was not as famous or as marketable and didn't win as much as he did. He was a champion in his own right, but he lost a lot in the finals, actually, through the years. But what he did in his post-career was something Jordan tried to do and never actually was able to replicate, which was to be a GM of a team, then eventually an owner. And Jerry West wasn't an owner, but he might as well have been, because he probably would have been good at that too. He built a number of great teams through the years, including the Showtime Lakers, and a second version that was Kobe and Shaq. And he was able to put that together. He's the one that traded for Kobe Bryant.
Yep.
Right? And then in the more recent years, he worked with the Grizzlies, made them really good, really fast. This was a couple of incarnations ago. He's been working with the Clippers. He worked with the Warriors when they put their dynasty together. I would argue that this person, nobody knows the game of basketball better than him. Oh, period.
Yep.
Period. Nobody does. None of us are old enough to remember seeing him play. Or at least you'd have to be in your 70s, or 80s to really remember seeing him play. And also, it was different television time then.
Right.
The NBA Finals were still on tape delay as of the early 80s. So I'm not even sure how they were disseminated at that point in time.
That's right. There
was no way you were watching Chuck, Kenny, and Shaq talking about Jerry West. That didn't exist. The NBA wasn't that popular at that time. So I don't think anyone, unless you were there covering it, or you were just such a huge fan that you saw whatever you could at the time, could really tell you a lot about his playing career other than the statistics and the highlights that you've seen. And they're amazing.
Yep.
He went to the finals, I think it's 9 years in a row. He won one. That's because the Celtics were a problem, and they had Bill Russell, and they had a legendary team as well. This is when the NBA was not a very robust league. And the Lakers and the Celtics were by far, bar none, the best two teams in the league through the 1960s into the early 1970s. And he kept getting to the finals. And on the show Winning Time, which I'll get to in a moment, which detailed the Showtime Lakers and his role in it and the caricature they made of him, they do flash back to the days of when he played and how angry it made him, how much he hated the Celtics, and how angry it made him that while he won one, he had to suffer defeat after defeat after defeat. He was the Buffalo Bills of sports back in the early 60s. They kept getting to the finals, and they kept losing.
And, in fact, won an MVP in a losing effort.
In a losing
as
effort.
Well.
He also, as everybody knows, is the logo, or is the silhouette of him is the logo. I would assume that that's not going to change, but people have talked about that.
They talked about making
years.
it Jordan, yeah.
Jordan, or I don't know, maybe LeBron now because he is the all-time leading scorer. I think that's a possibility too, or Kobe, because of his impact on the league and his untimely early passing.
Sure.
So I've heard that before, but I don't know why you would do that. And that logo is iconic, so I don't know why you would mess with it. So it's good, and it's Jerry West. So I don't know that there is any more impactful person in any one sport that I can think of than him for the length of the career that he had, the acumen that he had in every level of it, from being a player to a GM architect of numerous dynastic championship teams, not just numerous good teams, numerous dynastic championship teams over the course of 60 years. I'm not sure there's anybody that you could name that had an impact in sports across the board like that as a young person to an old man like he did. It's really amazing.
The closest NFL comp, I think it was Greeny that was talking about it, and maybe it was his bias of where he used to work, but Greeny said the closest one that probably came to it in the NFL was probably Mike Ditka, just of the level of play and then jumping in as a coach. But even then, it's not. He
was a Hall of Fame player,
right?
He was the coach of a great team that did only win one Super Bowl.
Of course, but of course,
right?
but
we're in the playoffs every year, but did only win one.
Yeah.
And then, whatever, he coached the Saints and that didn't go very well.
Right.
And then he was terrific on TV for a long time.
Yeah.
But he never was a GM.
No, of course.
Never did anything like that.
But even then, that person doesn't really exist either. You usually go one path or the other. You usually don't coach and be a GM in the NFL.
He was a very good, in that argument, then you would say that Charles Barkley is one of the most impactful people ever because he didn't win a championship, but he played at an extraordinarily high level. He was a Hall of Fame player, and he's the best basketball broadcaster or the most likable one of his generation.
Yeah, sure.
So you could say that about him.
Yeah.
Ditka, I guess Vince Lombardi, I don't think played. Or if he did, it didn't have the impact, but he had that kind of impact on the game. I guess maybe George Halas. You have to go way back.
It's like,
Paul Brown or George Founders.
Yeah.
Founders who then set a level of play, a discipline that kind of carried over into what is the integral fabric of the league. It dates back to their way they coached their teams. But I don't recall them, and maybe they were players, but this would be pre-NFL. Were they players? Nobody would know.
That's right.
They played for the Pottstown Pirates or whatever it was, and nobody, and they threw the ball 3 times a game. I don't.
Also worked at the grocery store after every game. Yeah.
I can't think of anything like this really anywhere else. What great player in hockey, because a lot of players end up becoming coaches in that sport.
Absolutely.
What all-time great player ended up coaching and was an all-time great, or all-time great became a GM? Steve Yzerman, I guess. Steve Yzerman,
I'd put him up
build
there.
the Lightning?
Yeah. I'd put him up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's a Hall of Fame player who played on a dynastic team and now has built a really, really good. They've won a couple of times, and they're right there every year.
Yeah, because usually it's one or the other, though. You're either a great GM and you weren't a great player, or you had a cup of coffee in the league or whatever, or you're the great player and it doesn't work out behind the bench.
Mario Lemieux's was part of the ownership team of Pittsburgh for a long time, and of course is one of maybe the top 5 greatest players of all time.
Sure. I was going to say though, look at Wayne Gretzky. His run of being a coach for the Coyotes didn't go well. Kind of fizzled out, and then no one called him on that. Patrick Waugh, I guess, if you want to make that argument, if he somehow wins with the Islanders, I
guess
that was kind of a shock this year. But I'm trying to just rack my brain real quick. But you're right, everyone has kind of played. I think in the NHL, you probably get more people that have at least played a couple games. George McPhee played some games. Brian McLaurin played some games. You kind of rack your brain of who hasn't played. So I think people just stay in the game there long enough.
I guess too, Phil Jackson wasn't a great player, but he was a good player for the Knicks. But he happened to play on the last championship team that they had, which was in the 1970s. So that's important. And then his 2 coaching runs are obviously unprecedented in NBA history. Now, some people think he's fortunate that he had Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and then Kobe and Shaq, but not everybody wins with great players, and he was able to do it year after year after year with all of them, so he had some form of role in it, and he does need to go down as one of the great coaches of all time, and he was a good player, but not a great player. Jerry West was an MVP player. Jerry West is the logo. Jerry West was a standard bearer for his position. Jerry West is on the whatever list you have of whatever it comes out, 50 greatest players, 75 greatest players, whatever list you put on, he's on it.
Yep.
Like he'd probably be in the top 10 of any list like that. Like if you're like realistically going to pick who are the top 10 greatest players of all time, his name would be arguable to be in it. So he's an all-time legend who turned into an all-time team builder.
Right.
And did it at an advanced age. I mean, that's really the most amazing part of the whole thing. Like, he built the Showtime Lakers. Well, he was only out of the league a few years when that kind of started. But to get around to Kobe and Shaq, that's 25 years later when he did that. And that's 15 years later to get to Steph, Clay, and all whatever role he had in the Warriors in building those teams.
For Kobe, too, they were already telling the stories all day today about how he was like the only GM out of all of them that were like, we're going to make the move for him. Like talking before the trade actually happened, all these other GMs were going, we're not drafting a high school kid.
Yes.
Like, how good do we know he's going to be? And he
Kobe
was the one
Bryant
that was all in.
Kobe Bryant was picked, 12? Something like that. And West knew.
Yeah.
He's one of those people. He had such an eye for it that obviously, like, he goes down as a classic. You should never do a deal with him. He's going to be right and you're going to be wrong.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
We had that with Rizzo for a while, in the heyday of him making these deals.
And it was McPhee for a little bit.
Yeah, he'd make these deals. And it's like, Trey Turner, who's that? Well, maybe you shouldn't have dealt him to us.
Right. Yes.
Because clearly he's got an eye for this thing. Yeah. Jerry West, knew it with Kobe Bryant, clearly. From day one, knew it and knew that the guy, and, if everybody knew what it was going to be, he would have been the number one pick that year, but they didn't. Nobody knew it. He knew it. And, I think it's not hard to go, Shaq's really good, let's go get him.
Yeah, right.
But, listen, he was part of the Showtime Lakers, too. And again, like, Kareem was already a star when he got him acquired to the Lakers. And then I don't think it was hard to pick Magic Johnson, out of college. Sure. It wasn't a hard thing to do. But you remember, I think Magic Johnson was the number one pick, right? I believe he was.
Yeah, definitely was.
So they had a choice, actually. They did have a choice, and they went with Magic. So listen, I mean, the guy's an all-time great, and it's, this is also the second time. It's interesting. I mean, he was in his 80s, but it's the second time in a week. I didn't even know he was sick.
Yeah, they said it was a tough year is what happened. Tim Bontemps was on with Carlin and Joe, and Bontemps said he had heard he wasn't feeling well. And they said the story with West was that he never wanted to talk about the past. He wanted to talk about right now.
Yeah.
And he said when Tim.
I like that, actually. It's. I'll tell you another story about that, but go ahead.
Tim basically said he shot him a text and was like, hey, I heard you're not feeling well. Hope all is well. And he said, hey, thank you, appreciate that, but keep me in the loop. Like, I want to know what's going on. He's like, tell me any major trades. Tell me what you're hearing because I want to know what's going on, essentially. He said, so even though he was, sick, he was still asking him to, hey, update me on what you're hearing.
There was a summer or two ago, I, flipped on the summer league because, nothing's on.
Yeah.
And I flipped it on, and he was sitting, courtside, I'm like, you're Jerry West. Why are you here watching this?
Because
he's like watching the Clippers rookies or something. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you here? Yeah. Can't they just send you the report on that one? But no, he's as all in. I think what he is defined as, to me, he is as all in as it gets. And he did it for his entire life. He was beyond all in as a player. You don't reach the levels that he reached unless you were. And then as a coach / GM, he clearly was that he just didn't know how to do it any other way.
Yep.
And therefore, the fruits of his labors paid off. He had the work ethic, and he clearly had the eye.
Yep.
He knew what talent looked like. He knew what coachable talent looked like. He knew what chemistry looked like. He seemed to understand all of that. And it's really it's a remarkable loss. And I would assume that the Celtics-Mavericks game tonight is going to spend some time honoring him. I know, it was easy to do with Bill Walton because he was larger than life, but he also was a Celtic at one point in time. Yep. So I think it was easy to do something up in Boston specifically to honor him. And I thought they did a very nice job with the shirts that they made, the tie-dye shirts that they made. And obviously they did something. But this warrants – this is an all-time top 5 legend of the game, maybe the most outside of – it's hard to argue anybody but Jordan because he just catapulted the game into a different stratosphere. But Jerry West might be number 2 on that list of most important people that have ever come through the game.
Sure. Well,
really.
I was going to say, even with Jordan, though, he falls into that line that I was just talking about with hockey, though. Jordan became a GM and an owner and was terrible at it.
At both of them.
Not just mediocre, terrible.
Yeah. I look at LeBron and I go, you are going to be a bad GM. I can tell you, I know you're going to be a bad GM. You're going to be a bad GM. You're probably going to be an owner, though. And so we'll see how that goes.
Sure.
We'll see how that goes.
But it's
when you and Rich Paul own the team, let's see how that goes.
So it's like I'm looking at it and I go, I don't think we're ever going to see anyone that is so good at all of it. I mean, it's just it's hard to do.
Yes,
honestly,
it is.
You usually are one or the other.
Well, I mean, this goes back to, it's funny. Nobody had a bigger playing as a player work ethic than Michael Jordan.
Yep.
And he had a competitive streak that was unmatched, and all of that, turned him into the all-time alpha player who was going to show you at every turn. And then when they did The Last Dance, all you saw was this was constant about everything with him.
Yeah.
Gambling, bets with his teammates, challenges on one-on-one. You can't play horse with the guy because if you beat him, he's going to lose his mind on you. And you're probably not going to beat him because he's like, that's the kind of, like, he can't take it down a notch. Like, everything has got to be up on a different level. And then the second he got the Wizards job, he's like, I'm going to do it from Chicago.
Yeah,
and we're all like, who's this Michael Jordan that isn't so all in? And then as an owner, I think one of the most underrated things in sports of the last 20 years is his failure as an owner every single year. That he never even had a team that was competitive, barely made the playoffs, numerous lottery picks, never could turn them into some kind of disciple of his. There was nothing to it. So his competitive drive clearly left after he stopped playing.
Yep.
Jerry West's never did. Never did. It's why he had the success he had post-playing career in basketball.
Yeah.
It just never left. Now, I want to get to Winning Time for a minute because I've seen a lot of people talk about it, and I loved that show, and it had a premature ending, unfortunately. Yep. I don't know what happened there because I thought the viewership was pretty good, but HBO dumped it. So they only had 2 seasons.
It tells you a lot because HBO usually sticks with those things.
They usually do. It was shot incredibly well. The cast was amazing.
Yeah.
Really amazing.
Expensive. I mean,
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. The first year's way better than the second because, as it turned out, and I didn't know this at the time, but it came out late, because the showrunners believed this was going to be a 3 to 5 year run to go through the whole Showtime era. But because they got prematurely canceled and found this out before the show was over, they sped up the timeline and did a lot of things in a very short period of time that I don't think they would have done had they had the runway with this show. So the second season, to me, wasn't nearly, it was good, but it was not nearly as good as the first season. The first season was amazing, but there was one part of it that felt off from everything that everybody says about Jerry West. They don't describe him as someone who constantly, even at an advanced age, flew off the handle all the time. But in this show, I don't remember who the actor is, but he's amazing. He's really, really great at it. But they turned him into Wile E. Coyote in this show, where they showed all the, they did flashbacks with him as his playing days and why he hates the Celtics so much and how disappointed he was. They kept getting to the finals and kept losing, and how hard it was on him as a competitor to deal with that. And in those moments, it felt apropos to put him really angry, upset, just can't believe that it just isn't happening for him. Then they actually won one, and there were some really great scenes with that. But then they turned him into GM Jerry West and working with the team and the original coaches of Showtime, and then eventually Pat Riley, and they turned him almost into a person who will fly off the handle at any given moment.
Trophies through the window,
throwing
through the door,
stuff.
Yeah.
I'd have to have Jeff Pearlman on, who I know a little bit, who wrote Winning Time and was part of the show running. He didn't create. Obviously, he didn't create. He's the author, but I would love to hear how true is that rendition of him, because everything I've ever seen, I've never seen Jerry West look angry at all. And I'm sure the competitive streak is obviously there.
Sure.
But the way they portrayed him felt really over the top.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, it was a good portrayal of him, though.
Sure.
Anyway, this is sad. I want to see what they do tonight and how they honor him. And I hope it is lengthy because it's really deserved. He changed the game. And it's really, I think the most amazing part of the length of a career like that is that at an advanced age, he could still see chemistry and talent.
Yes.
You would think that it would have passed him by at some point in time, that you just you either aren't as interested anymore or you just lose your edge and the game changes and the traits that you look for don't match with a modern game. That never happened to him. I mean, that's really the most, and maybe it just comes down to he knows what a winner looks like. Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe.
From the personality and the playing ability. He can look at somebody and go, okay, that guy could be a winner. And then he can look at the personality of the team and go, that's a winning team. And that seems to be a magic trait that only he probably can't even explain it. He just knows what he's looking at.
Right.
And that's amazing.
No, I agree. And I think we look at it in sports all the time that sometimes some guys have secret sauces, right? Like you and I make fun of it all the time, how the Steelers have some kind of formula to find wide receivers, right? Somehow they get somebody, right? But
the Eagles are incredible at finding offensive linemen.
Right. But like
teams have this, but to find guys like this,
especially in basketball, where we've seen it before, where there's years like this year where there's no clear-cut number 1 overall pick, right? But then you have other years where he wasn't even picking high and was nailing draft picks or nailing signings in a sport where it's honestly a crapshoot. You can take the guy who's the number 1 prospect, but you and I have seen it a million times where that guy doesn't pan out.
Yes.
Or
if they're a freakish talent, that's a different story. But in most years, when it's not LeBron or Victor Wembanyama, like it's a different. Like this year, it's a different story. It's a crapshoot. Like
that's right.
These guys are at the top of the board. They may end up being great. They may not.
Right.
They may not.
Exactly.
But he picked Klay Thompson. He wasn't number 1.
Right.
Yeah, he's picking Steph Curry. Mm-hmm. He's picking Kobe. He's pointing out Kobe Bryant, going, "We're going to trade for him."
Right. Like I wonder, would he have taken KD over Greg Oden?
Yeah, who knows?
Like it's those decisions that you make an impact for.
Who knows? That's a big loss for the world of sports today. All right, we'll take a quick break. I'll get into what happened in Ashburn today next. Bray, watch the show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.
I'm an easy lover. I'm like no other.
You love my new Ted Sings the Hit.
I just didn't see that one coming.
Easy lover.
Big Phil Collins, Philip Bailey fan.
Like no other.
You didn't even mention the Sticks got a win last night.
Oh, they did. He's in a good mood.
Yeah. He and Zach.
Everybody's in a good mood now?
Yeah, apparently.
Okay. One more thing on Jerry West.
Yep.
So people are upset that what?
There's more Carlin. I think Rob Carlin's not Rob Carlin.
Rob Carlin.
Whoops.
Rob will take your money for any Maryland initiative these days, by the way.
I noticed that. Yes.
Yeah,
Congrats to Rob on that, by the way. Now I can't think of Carlin's first name.
Now I can't call him because I'm like, I'm going to go to the Terps game. He's going to be like, do you have your checkbook? And I'm like, I don't.
It's going to be Monopoly.
I'm just going to go and root. I'm just going to root for the team.
Down.
Can I do that? I'm just going to root for the team. I want them to win.
No, I think it was more Carlin was mad about it today because he was saying.
You read me the statement, and the statement was perfectly fine.
It's fine.
It wasn't very thorough.
Right.
It didn't talk about all the accomplishments that he had.
Right.
Like his legacy kind of deserves a very long list of these are all the accomplishments, and it didn't do that, but it was extremely respectful.
Right. No, Chris Garland, by the way. I think he was this is a slow-ish news day, and he decided to get riled up about it. I didn't think it was that big of a deal.
Well, I mean, Jerry West has, stated that he did not have a good relationship with the team.
Right.
Which is very hard to believe and terrible. I mean, like, this happened here with some of our legends in recent years where, things just went sideways. And, I know that this group is trying to repair a lot of that. And they've already started the inroads of that. And some of it is, and I talked to Darryl Green a few weeks ago when I went to that golf tournament, the Mickey Steele golf tournament that's run by Mark Rippon. And I got to talk to Darryl Green, and he just, I didn't even ask him about it, but he just was like, this ownership group is making it easier for us to get back in the fold and respecting our legacies. And obviously they're retiring his numbers. So it's a really big deal that they're doing that. But we saw this with some of the Hogs and Riggo and some of the legends of the team that have this, hands-off relationship with the team where they're, legends. And I always find that to be sad. And if it's like, when it's a one-off thing, it's like, well, something probably happened. But when it's a group of people that are the legends of the team that just kind of don't want anything to do with it anymore or don't want to disassociate, that's always problematic. But Jerry West is like a top 5 figure in basketball history. And the vast majority of the things that he did that are going to go down on his resume of greatest, figure in the sports history are with the Lakers, whether he played with them or built 2 of their greatest dynasties beyond the one he was on, if you can call it that. I mean, it was a Western Conference dynasty. They were in the finals every single year.
Right.
So that's sad. I'm sad to see that, and it sucks that it wasn't repaired. Like, figure it out. Like, I don't know. What's the problem here? When you don't want to give him credit for it? Is that what it is? Like, what was the problem?
Right. Well, then the Mount Rushmore comment too, I guess, from Jeannie Buss was also
she said it was Magic, Kareem, Elgin Baylor, probably LeBron, and Phil Jackson. She put Phil Jackson on it.
And didn't put him
on
Kobe.
There. No, Kobe.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Kobe,
exactly.
Listen, it's the one team where you're going to have an argument about it to pick 5.
But she picked LeBron as the problem. Like
Phil Jackson.
Well, yeah, right.
I would put Pat Riley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Probably above Phil Jackson.
Yeah, okay.
If I was going to pick a Lakers coach, I would probably pick Pat Riley.
Right.
I wouldn't, though. I would pick 5 players, and one of them's Jerry West.
Right.
Wilt Chamberlain's not on that list currently. Elgin Baylor's not on that list currently.
Right.
Shaq's probably sitting on the set pissed off that he's not on that list.
Right. Yeah, that too.
I don't know. And LeBron. It's just pandering to LeBron. More pandering to LeBron. Anyway. All right.
Pandering to LeBron. Jeannie loves doing that. So, I mean,
does.
Which is weird.
Yeah, I'm pandering to Phil Jackson, too. Like, what, why?
Yep.
What do you need to do that for? Okay, let's see. From Ashburn today. Notes from Ashburn. Jayden Daniels must not have said much because there's not a lot of tweets about it.
It was mostly his comments on just like being a pro. And the takeaway was 5:45 apparently is when he's getting in every morning.
That's not news. Everyone keeps telling me that's what it is. He's the first in the building. I guess the giveaway here is he says the person who's always there with him is Luke McCaffrey.
Oh, okay.
So there we go. Little tidbit today.
Got it.
So Luke McCaffrey, not surprising, crazy football family, lifer football family, shows up and is putting in the work.
Sure.
And, for him, sometimes you get drafted into a good situation. He did.
Right.
They got this young quarterback who's going to be the starter sooner rather than later. Hopefully he's going to be a star. And we were talking about this yesterday, and I'm going to talk more about Terry in a moment because he spoke for 20 minutes yesterday. By the time we got around to it, we'd only heard a couple clips, but he spoke a lot. The first expansive, conversation that he had. Anyway, McCaffrey walks in here with a really good opportunity.
Yep.
Like this is I don't know if thin's the right word for it, but they don't have a lot of standouts at like across the board on that wide receiver core. Terry's their number 1. Jahan's clearly by talent level their number 2. And then Jamison Crowder's probably the punt returner and maybe a number 3. Zacchaeus might be a slot receiver, number 3. De'Ami Brown is up in the air, but I keep hearing his name a lot, actually. So I think like things must be at least, we don't see all the practices, but I keep hearing his name floating around. So maybe he's performing relatively well. And from just a sheer talent perspective, he might be above those other 3 that I named. And so if he stands out, he could win himself a job back on this team. And that wouldn't totally surprise me because it's not like they went and brought in a bunch of veteran receivers. They brought a couple guys in, but not big, high-level receivers, just guys to compete and made the best man win. And I thought the second Sanders still got number 2, I went, oh, well, he's done. And then, but now I've heard good things about what's happening with him here. So I think he's taken to this offense a little bit. Kingsbury likes to throw the ball downfield. He has speed. So this actually wouldn't totally surprise me if there's kind of a career turn for him to get an opportunity with this team.
He always reminds me of like, just the kind of not the like the great route runners, but just there's always a couple of those speedsters that have a couple of big plays. Like I always point to that Saints game where he had just the 2 long bombs, right? Where he's caught a couple of touchdowns. Like
Tennessee.
Was it Tennessee?
Was Tennessee or
no? It was. I thought it was New Orleans.
Was it the Saints?
Yeah, I think it was that.
I can't remember.
That was
the
one
home game where he had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that was the one where they threw the Hail Mary at the last second.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they threw the Hail Mary at halftime.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, and that was the one. That was guys.
Yes.
Because he yelled at everybody because they're like, it was 2 plays.
Yeah.
They gave up a bomb on a blown coverage, and they gave up a touchdown on a Hail Mary.
That's right.
Other than that, if you go look at Jameis Winston's stats, they were terrible. They were terrible the whole day. He had 2 passes for like 150 yards, and everything else was awful.
It
was
right.
awful.
You're right. It was the Titans. You're right.
His 2 touchdowns came against the Titans.
Yeah.
That Saints game was maddening.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't want to bring that up for no reason.
Hail Mary at the end of the first half. Touchdown. And they blew a coverage and gave up a bomb for a touchdown. Right, I remember that.
Sorry, my bad. Right, got my Ron bombs.
Anyway, so tidbit is McCaffrey's in the film room with him. Well, I mean, it's wide open for someone like him.
Sure.
Like Terry Jahan, maybe Brown's rising up. Zacchaeus is going to be in a competition for slot. Crowder is in a competition. It's the guys like Dax Milne. They're going to look at a guy like McCaffrey, and they're in trouble against someone like that. Unless he can show value in a different way, he's going to be in trouble. And then there's a couple other veterans that they brought in, but nobody of like a high, caliber level. So there's going to be a pretty good competition there. I still feel like in the end, they need another primary target, whether you consider it a 1 or a 1A to Terry. I think they need another primary target. It's probably not coming until next year, but they need it.
Yeah.
Unless McCaffrey turns into it.
Sure.
They come in all shapes and sizes.
Of course. No, I mean,
like you couldn't have told me when Hunter Renfrow was drafted that he was going to end up being as good as he was.
Right.
So you never know. And I'm not putting anything on him. I haven't seen him play, so I have no idea. But comes from the right family. And now that I'm hearing he's sitting there watching film with the guy at 5:45, this is what I was saying about Terry yesterday. The best thing McLaurin can do, and I know that he's going to do it anyway, he's just the way he is. He needs to become best friends with this guy because he's at a weird spot. McCaffrey walks in the door at 22, 23 years old. They're same level. They're studying together. Hopefully they form a relationship. Jahan is still really, really young. I mean, this is only year 3. What's he, 24, 25 years old? He's a young guy. He's got an opportunity here. De'Ami Brown's still young. He's only year 3, 4, whatever it is. He's still a young guy. He's got an opportunity here. McLaurin's the one that's going to be turning 30 next year. And he needs to maintain the position of I'm the primary target here and I'm the go-to target here. And if he doesn't, I think we're going to start having some interesting conversations because of the money that he makes at the end of the year. If he does become that for them and continues his role like where he is, standing in the community, person he is in the locker room, and, all the production, because he gets 1,000 yards every year, even though he's got 85 quarterbacks playing with him and bad schemes and all sorts of things happening. Like, if that continues to happen, I think he'll be here, for what hopefully is a prime run of Jayden Daniels' career. But if it doesn't play out that way, I don't really know what we're going to be talking about by the end of the year, even though he's good and valuable, and in so many ways, I'm so hoping he plays his entire career here.
Yeah, of course.
I think he deserves it.
Absolutely. I would say this too, though. Like, we've seen this where the third or fourth receiver becomes that security blanket sometimes too for these young quarterbacks. And so if it's going to be McCaffrey, I think everybody would be okay with that. Like, you and I have looked at that tight end room. Like, I look at that tight end room, and there's just not a lot there, and that's usually the pacifier for a young quarterback. And I just don't like their tight end room. So if McCaffrey can kind of take that, I think that's might be the role that he takes, because I don't believe in Zach Ertz, to be completely honest with you. So
I think Zach Ertz is a bridge player who's a leadership player. Kingsbury knows him.
Yeah.
He's going to help hopefully develop Sinnott.
Right.
Like, I think there's a couple of people like this. Bobby Wagner, and every coach does this. This is not that unusual, but they've got Zach Ertz is a borderline Hall of Fame tight end. I don't know whether he will get in or not, but he had a great career. Bobby Wagner is a surefire, probably first ballot Hall of Fame player. They have a couple guys that they're resetting with. Austin Eckler, I think, falls in this category too, where Anthony Lynn looks at him and says he's a leader, the work ethic, you'll like having him in the locker room, he'll do everything for you. So you bring guys like this in.
But on that, like, usually there is a pacifier with the tight end, and I just don't see Ertz being that. He's not that volume type guy.
So Ertz is not going to stretch the field.
Right.
He's a possession receiver now. He's had a lot of injuries the last couple of years. The hope is he can kind of get through. But I think, all he does is give them a lot of experience, potentially a red zone target, and hopefully a lifeline and a bridge to Ben Sinnott becoming him next year. Yeah. That's the hope. Right. And that's the hope. And then Bates' contract's going to come up soon. They have to talk about him.
Sure.
Cole Turner is still here, so we'll have to see how he kind of figures into all of this. And I loved Armani Rodgers a couple years ago, and I look at him and I go, that guy's a weapon. He's just a great athlete. He's a weapon. You can do a lot of things. Let's see how they feel about him when we get around to competition. The other thing that Jayden said that I've seen tweeted, because he must not have said much or anything overly newsworthy because nobody's writing anything, but someone said to him, getting prepared to become, a star quarterback. And his answer was, I ain't a star quarterback yet, which falls in line with the way he's acted, throughout all of this. I think he's very humble. I think he's very grounded. I don't think he likes all this attention. Like, this is a good marriage. This team doesn't want to push him out there and make him feel the pressure of being the franchise savior.
Right.
He also seemingly does not, at this point, want that. That's good. Sometimes, you get, like, it can go one way or the other. The team may not want to thrust you out there, but the player wants to do it. They have their own podcast. They're looking for brands. They're on social media all the time. They want to be a big deal. He's not really active on social media. I've seen him do some interviews, but not very many. When he does, he's soft-spoken and humble. He doesn't push any kind of whatever's going on. Now, if he goes out there and has a Pro Bowl season in year one, maybe his attitude changes. But I do like this. His head is down. He's prioritizing what's important right now. And the team, I think, is doing right by him by not forcing the issue from a marketing standpoint. They're not pushing him. And it seems that it seems like he's appreciative of it. He's the one showing up at 5:45. He doesn't want to go to the steak dinners with the corporate, sponsors yet. They don't want to make him go to the draft party yet. They don't want to put him in commercial shoots. They don't want to, get your single game tickets and use his face for it. They could.
Right.
They could push all of that, and they're not. And, if you just hear what he says, it sounds like he'd prefer it that way.
Some would say
now.
no pressure, no diamonds.
Let's see.
What? What did I say?
No pressure, no diamonds.
Some would say all in for week one.
Let's see. From McLaurin yesterday, because he did speak for a long time. This Ben Standig wrote about it. He said a couple of things that came up. He believes that he can do better in yards after the catch, and I agree with that. Like, one of the sneaky things about Terry is he's actually legitimately straight line fast, which I think has been a separator for him. And I think people undersell it because they look at his size and they realize he's a good competitor, but they don't see. I don't think people realize he is sneaky fast.
Yep.
It's not like Tyreek Hill where you can just see it. He is straight line. When he makes his cut and go, he gets separation because he's sneaky fast. And he said he's trying to change that again. And I think a lot of that has to do with accuracy of the quarterback, catching him in stride.
Absolutely.
If you can catch him in stride, I think you've got an opportunity. But he pointed out that, like, in working with this, he's trying to be careful not to lose the football. So I think he's like, when I start running, it sounds like he's trying to carry it differently, which I don't like hearing out loud personally, but whatever. Let's see. Here's the one part, too, that I thought came up. Frustration with such circumstances is human nature, and he's just talking about 5 years of basically being on a team that just keeps middling or worse and can't seem to get out of its own way. And he acknowledged that he's not immune to wondering when a sustained turnaround occurs. He says he tries to, quote, make a conscious choice to have a fresh mentality each and every year. I think it's easy because we've had so many changes, he said. While he spent the initial part of his offseason playing golf to keep his competitive juices and helping plan his upcoming wedding, the football break didn't last long, and he said this: I'm hungry this offseason. He said he's been emphasizing the competition aspect of football, and he said, I'm going to grind every offseason, but this one feels like the start of something new and special. The foundation of it is extremely important, and to be part of that and have a hand in that, it's an honor. And then he went on to talk about Kingsbury, and he says he loves the idea that, he's going to push the ball down the field, give him this opportunity. Yeah. But he also, and I can't believe he admitted this either, but he said they're moving him to a different position slot at times too. Okay. So they're going to use him more inside, not just outside, but inside. He's been mainly an outside receiver. They move him in motion, but rarely start him at like a Z. That's going to be interesting if they do that. But I think he's got the right attitude about this because I think he probably surmises this too. If he doesn't get off to the right start with this team, even if the team gets off to the right start, he's the one that makes a lot of money and is going to be 30 years old. I want him in that boat.
There's a out after this year too.
Correct.
So.
I want him captaining the ship because I know what he brings to the locker room and I know who he is and I know what he's capable of. But the age and timing of it, I hope lines up right. This is a big year for him. Yeah. He and Jayden Daniels need to become a 1-2 punch or else we're going to have some interesting conversations by the end of the year. All right, we'll be right back. Bram Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. 6 years ago today was the parade for the Washington Capitals as they won the Stanley Cup for the one and only time in what is about to be their 50th anniversary.
Yes, that's
this
right.
Year.
Top 5 day ever for me.
That was a great one.
Ever.
You showed me some pictures and videos from earlier that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah, some of those don't get posted on social media.
Of course not.
It was a party. It was a party, and I was at the bar.
Alan May was intimately involved in this party.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was live commentated because you and I were at TEM at the time. Yeah. Zabe play-by-played keg stands that day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was a part of that.
Let's see. I took my kids because I'm like, you got to see this.
Yep.
So I made them go. And Archer's little, because he's 5 when we took him. And I was looking through the pictures, and there's B. Mitch putting his Super Bowl ring on my son's finger.
Yes.
And, he won't remember this probably because he was 5. I've never had a Super Bowl ring on my finger. I don't think I've ever tried on anybody.
That's shocking to me because there were so many like free events growing up, at least for me, where I was offered it up.
I worked with Doc and B-Mitch for years. I don't think I ever put their rings on my finger.
Well, yeah, I mean that's different. Like you're working.
Can I see that?
Yeah, right. I think B-Mitch actually offered it up when I saw him at like one of the auto shows when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Think I was too scared of him. And then I did try.
Too scared of him. I was too scared of him.
I mean, he's on a tall table or whatever. And then I did try Gary Clark's on at one point in time. Like he did like a mall signing or something like that. And yeah, I remember that one. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we're getting in a weird day and age now. I don't know how you feel about this. I feel like people need to start pulling certain pictures to like put them somewhere where they're accessible because I feel like we're in a day and age where physical pictures aren't really a thing anymore. Like no one gets their film developed or whatever. So like I feel like we need to do something where you put them on a drive or whatever. So then Archer knows when he grows up and he sees that picture of like, oh, holy
digital
crap.
photo album.
Yeah, or like
album.
something like that where we put it on a drive or whatever. So
like all the women who are listening right now are going, we already do that.
Yeah. Right. Well,
I don't know how. I mean, because I was at my son's promotion ceremony. He just graduated, quote unquote, graduated from elementary school, so it was really cute promotion ceremony.
Sure.
And I mean, just the amount of pictures taken that day.
Yes.
We're like, what are you doing with all these?
Right.
Like,
exactly.
5, 10. Now it's 30. Like, what are you doing with all of those?
I get it. Trust me. I mean, but then there are days where I scroll back and there's 100 photos from that day.
I start erasing them.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Well, if because now everybody like, hey, can you take a picture of us? And everybody takes 30 of them of you.
That's true.
Hoping that, it'll be one you like.
Right.
And then I go back weeks later and I'm like, I have 30 pictures of the same thing. I need to get rid of some of these. I don't like that.
What I've done is because I have an iPhone Pro Max, so I can take really good photos with it, is I'll take a bunch and then I'll weed through those. But why I have that is because if I film a video at concerts, the audio is perfectly loud and clear the way things have gone with technology. So like I did like a minute video of Gary Clark, and it's like it's a big file, but it looks like it's right there. So there are exceptions to that for me. But yeah.
Let's see. 6 years ago, the Caps had the parade. Hershey Bears are in Game 7 after they led their series. This is the conference finals for them, correct?
Yes, exactly.
They would play
Coachella
if they
who they played last year,
who they beat.
Yep.
So they would have a rematch with them in the AHL final if they were to win. They've blown a 3-game-0 lead, though.
Correct. Yes, exactly. Okay. And part of the storyline here is Coachella decided, because they're out in
Palm Springs.
Yeah, Palm Springs. They decided they were going to fly to Hershey like 2 days ago. So they decided to go to Hershey to start practicing.
Because either way, they're either going to play them or they're going to play Cleveland.
Right. So
you're right here anyway.
So they decided to come, but basically that was like,
that's bulletin board for Cleveland, though.
Correct.
To see that they showed up here.
Exactly. And that's what everyone was kind of talking about 2 nights ago, because it showed Dan Bylsma, who is involved with the team. I think he's their head coach. And then there's, they had all their executives or whatever watching and scouting the game. And everybody was kind of like, you guys are here. Like you decided to show up to Hershey. Like,
are you now?
Yeah. Right. So definitely an odd one there. By the way, too, like, you can tell it's tough for the minor league teams to like do this last second thing. Like you could get up there for 2 tickets for $30 was to get in today. It was like a special deal because it was a quick turnaround. Like they didn't think. No one thought it was really going to go to a Game 7, so they had undersold the game, honestly.
That would have been a fun little road trip, actually, if I didn't have a lot of things going on. I might have thought about that.
I agree. I thought about it for
I've
half a
actually
second.
never been to one of their games. So.
They're so fun. They're so
Especially
fun.
like a Game 7 thing would be really fun.
You can tailgate. Like it's a good time. Like it's a really good time. I haven't been probably in 10, 12 years, but their playoff games, super good time.
Yeah, I bet they are. Let's see. The U.S. Open starts tomorrow. The news of the day there is that Rory McIlroy isn't getting divorced. He's reconciled.
Oh, okay.
He had to go through rumors that he and one of the primary reporters on NBC Golf Channel was the girlfriend. No one ever you didn't see that. You're not in that cycle anymore.
No.
So you're not paying
not.
attention to this. Golf has a very good sorted, every once in a while you get some pretty good stuff. And this one was Rory, who, of course has an up and down love life, apparently was getting divorced. And then it came out that he was dating, or at least accused of dating or being with this reporter. Neither one of them confirmed it. Neither one denied it.
Oh, no.
And then the news today is he's reconciled and is staying married.
Oh, Okay.
So let's see how that works for him at the U.S. Open. If he doesn't make the cut, wrong decision. If he does make the cut or he's contending, right decision. That's how I feel about it. It's a mental game. You can't decide to reconcile your marriage 2 days before the U.S. Open and not have ramifications of it.
I mean, how come Rory is the Taylor Swift of the golf world? How come we're always hearing about Rory's love life? It's definitely a little weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I don't think he's a particularly good-looking man.
I agree.
But, like,
I don't think
no
that
offense.
juice is worth the squeeze. No
I
offense.
have a feeling if he took his shirt off and he's sitting in a bathing suit on some Irish beach somewhere, that is a white man.
I would
like
agree.
Translucent white man, that guy.
Yeah. That's a weird one. That's all.
I saw the storylines for the U.S. Open on ESPN, and they're like, and number one is who can defeat Scotty Scheffler because he won again last week. And I would just say, I don't know, arrest him. And then you got an opportunity to do it. So somebody needs to go out and arrest him. Other than that, the storylines were basically like, we don't think anybody can.
Right.
Which is, it's interesting how unpopular he is. Well, not unpopular, but like how no one knows who he is. And he's like on a Tiger Woods tear the last year and a half. Like a Tiger Woods tear.
Yeah.
It's crazy. All right, I'll be right back. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. I'm Steely Ted.
Steely
I'm not
Ted.
gonna. This one's too hard to sing as Ted.
Sure, yeah.
It's you know.
That's right.
You can't. So you're playing songs I can't sing as Ted.
No, that wasn't on purpose. I mean,
You want me to do it, is what you want me to do. You realize when you started playing this, he can't sing that as Ted.
that's right. No, I didn't.
I'm reeling in the years, Zach.
Steely Zach.
Yeah, Steely Zach. Steely Zach. Mike tweeted at us, Joe Torre belongs in the discussion of sports figures with Jerry West-like careers. 2,000 hits, 9 All-Star games, an MVP as a player, 2,000 wins, 4 World Series titles as a manager, and has served in the commissioner's office since 2011.
Okay.
That's a pretty good one.
I like that one. I like that one a
no
lot.
one will call Joe Torre an all-time great player, but a really, really good one. Really, 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 really good one.
Too, I guess, to that
because
light.
Jerry West is in the conversation of a top 5 player of all time.
Right.
So that's why I think there's no comparison, but I agree with this assessment of for a career that went that long, Joe Torre stands the test of time in baseball for sure.
I was going to say, too, like, the baseball has a couple of these right now, but they're not the same level of player. Like, I think you could argue, like, Aaron Boone a little bit, but, like, not the same stratosphere.
Not that level of
like
player.
Alex Cora with Boston.
Like Derek Jeter would have had to have, when he owned the Marlins, won 5 World Series. And then you're like, oh, my God.
He gets it, but I don't, that doesn't, and especially the way baseball changed, too. It went to all analytics, right? Became, nerds, essentially, started running the show.
A-Rod's trying to do it. A-Rod's trying to do it.
Good luck, A-Rod, with that.
I wonder if he'll get in the Hall of Fame one day.
I
mean, if they're not putting Barry Bonds in, they can't put him in.
That's right.
So, but I keep feeling like they should put Barry Bonds in. Let's just get that over with.
Hembo had a
stat. Let's just get that over with because I don't care that he did some drugs. He is one of the best baseball players of all time, period. Just stop. Like he is.
Levitard had a stat the other day. I love when he does this, when he just spits out a stat and you don't know where he's going with it. He said you could take away Barry Bonds' 7 MVP seasons and he'd still have 440 home runs and like hundreds of steals.
Yeah.
And he was the only player. If you took away the 7 MVP seasons, like ridiculous.
I mean, it is
stats.
ridiculous to look at him when he played for the Pirates and he's very, very thin.
Right.
And then you look at him with the Giants and he's a monster. And it's
you're a different human being.
You're a different human being.
Godzilla now.
But, I also, I've always kind of landed on over time, people will look at this stuff differently. And secondarily, everybody was doing it.
Right. Exactly.
He wasn't alone.
Right.
This isn't cap friendly where only the caps have the algorithm.
They did release a statement.
He wasn't the only person who had the drugs. Everybody did.
They did release a statement on that. I don't know if you saw that.
What?
We
own it.
Acknowledging it.
McLaurin
was like, we're happy to work with them. They will work independently until the deal is done because the deal isn't done yet, apparently.
The other teams are scrambling now, too.
Yeah, and then he was like, and then when it does, we are happy to work with them.
That's ours now.
Correct, yes.
All ours. Everything is ours. All ours. Let's see. This morning, Diana Rossini tweeted that Aaron Rodgers skipping all of Jets' mandatory minicamp this week because he prefers to be somewhere else away from football. That's his choice. Yes, it is his choice. I don't know why you're yelling at us about it. What are you, his wife? Like, what are you yelling at us about it
Well,
for?
no, I think it's because yesterday, so we didn't actually
That's his choice. Yeah, it is his choice to get fined. It's a mandatory thing.
We didn't get to this yesterday. It was because Saleh actually was asked, hey, who didn't show up today? And it was Hassan Reddick, which we still don't know what's going on there.
That's mysterious. He hasn't showed up to anything yet.
Right. And then he said Aaron Rodgers, and then he expanded upon it and said there's an event that apparently is very important to Aaron, and he decided that he wanted to be there for it. It is unexcused, so he still gets fined and everything.
Well, if
Saleh,
they find him.
So Saleh, though, is calling it an event, and then Rossini is saying away from football.
Uh-huh.
What is it?
So
Ayahuasca trip? It's got to be, right?
Where is he?
Darkness retreat?
Astrology forum?
Forum.
I don't know. Is he thinking about joining Trump's cabinet?
Yep.
What is he? Secretary of Commerce?
Old brainworm.
Maybe he should replace Fauci the way things are going these days. Why not?
The funniest part about this is I got to discuss this on my show. It's like, we get to ask you about this, right? Because you're so outspoken with all of this BS for the last couple years. You don't get to just skirt this under the rug. We get to ask you, where were you? Because you love telling us how you're about right on everything.
Let's see. Robert Saleh was asked about it and said this. Aaron and I are on the exact same page. There's no issue between Aaron or his teammates for that matter. We addressed it yesterday. It's more of an issue for everyone outside the building than it is inside. That's about it. Really?
Robert, they're mandatory. He's the most important player on your franchise right now.
Let's see. He was asked about, Hassan Reddick isn't there.
Right.
Are you on the same page with him about that?
Right.
This isn't good. This is bad. I mean, and for this guy who loves to tell everybody,
I'm telling you, yeah.
Yeah, we don't need any distractions around here. You are consistently the distraction.
And you were itching to get back on the playing field last year.
Right.
When you had an Achilles injury.
And said you had to sign a multi-year deal with them because you thought, you loved it. You're rejuvenated. I love it. It's like Peru. I love it.
It's like Peru.
All the senses. I feel them when I'm in New York. I love it.
I want to know what retreat he's on because he's on something. He's got to be. What?
He'll tell McAfee.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Saleh.
Or he'll go on some podcast I've never heard of.
Yeah, right.
That has guns in the background.
Or
And,
Blue of Earth.
Huh?
Or Blue of Earth.
Yeah,
podcast.
Blue of Earth's podcast. Where's she been?
Well, they broke up.
Oh, that's right.
They're probably friends on the astral plane, though.
They are. She's not real.
Yeah, she's not real.
She's an avatar. Oh man, it's so hypocritical. He's so hypocritical.
Every time we do this, I forget.
And the Jets let him do it, so it's their fault.
Every time we do this, I forget what the name of her podcast is, and I always have to Deja Blue.
Deja Blue.
It's the best name for a podcast.
He has had a run lately that truly is amazing. Amazing.
Well, here's the thing too. What's he doing? Because if Saleh calls it an event, and then Rossini calls it away from football,
that's his choice.
That's it. That's darkness retreat. That's ayahuasca or some other alternative medicine.
That's his choice. Yeah, it is his choice. It also, I don't know, anybody else, the team doesn't like that they did it, and they fine them.
Right.
They wouldn't even commit to whether they were fining him or not for it.
They have to because it's mandatory. No, they have to.
They have to fine him.
He's subject to the fines because it's mandatory. He has to be. There's no skirting around it.
Okay. He doesn't care.
Right. I mean, he's making stupid amount of money.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
I'm like, whatever.
I wish I could skip something and give you $30,000 for it and not care.
And say,
not care.
And say out
there you
loud.
Go. I don't care.
And say out loud that it's more important than whatever the mandatory thing is.
It's amazing. And this is not going to go well. I'm pretty convinced of it. This is not going to go well. He was flirting with being a vice presidential candidate. That wasn't a joke. He acknowledged it. He said he talked to Robert F. Kennedy about it. Like, they seriously talked about it. Now, whether he was a high choice or not doesn't even matter. He just said, I want to play football instead of being the vice president of the United States. That's one of the weirdest things you could possibly say.
Yeah, good one. You get paid way more,
What are you talking about? How is that how are you weighing those options? You're making the plus minus list on vice president versus quarterback of Jets?
He wants to make a difference in the world.
He's making one. He is. I don't think it's the difference he thinks he's making, but he's making a difference for sure. And then this line from Salah going like, oh, our teammates don't care. They don't? Are they allowed to skip your minicamp? Because they'd love to. Trust me, if I ask them, do they want to skip your minicamp? All of them will if they do the NFLPA anonymous thing, if you ask the question, would you like to skip minicamp? They would get 98% would say yes.
Your boy Zach out in Denver is like, if I skipped mandatory minicamp, I'd be cut.
You're right. Yeah, Zach's like, oh, we're skipping minicamp now,
right.
Are we?
Right.
Sean Payton wouldn't even let him do it at this point.
Correct, yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, it's starting to head down this direction of what's next.
Well,
what's it going to be?
I would say this too, though. I think what's happened here is we've seen it a million times here in Washington. He's been enabled by the whole organization.
Yes, the whole organization. This is the Lakers with LeBron right now.
He's boys with Woody Johnson. Yes. So it's like he gets to do whatever he wants.
He gets to do whatever he wants. The coach isn't strong enough to say anything.
He
could have been very strong about it. And he could have been like, you know what? We wanted him here.
Right.
Instead of, we're on the same page and only you care about it. What do you
right.
mean? Oh, you don't want your quarterback at your mandatory minicamp. Got it.
Right.
Okay.
And we're
I'm
okay
sure
with that.
That's true.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, pal.
Because your season didn't hinge on him last year or anything. Doesn't hinge on him again.
There's a lot of guys that don't have to go to the mandatory minicamp. It's why it's mandatory.
Right. Correct.
All those other practices they actually don't have to go to if they don't want to.
Right.
You know, we rake them over the coals when they don't show up for it, unless there's like a reason or an injury or something like that. But like, you don't have to. In this case, it's 3 days. Couldn't do it.
Right.
He's got something else he needs to do. And Rossini has to tell me, almost yell at me, that's his choice. Sure, it's his choice. You don't care about your job. Go ahead.
Right.
They're paying you millions and millions and millions of dollars. And you're right. The problem is they've enabled him. But this has been going on for the last, year and a half. They went and flew to see him. They gave him whatever he wanted. He could do whatever he wanted. They enabled the stupid he might come back in December crap when he tore his Achilles tendon. They enabled that.
Had to satisfy him for Hard Knocks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He had to fly in Liv Schreiber in person. He had to meet him.
In a helicopter during practice.
So HBO did it too.
Right.
They're like, fine. He probably was like, I'm not going to do any interviews with you.
Right.
And they're like, fine. And even Liv acknowledged it. He's like, I didn't ask to do this.
Yeah, right.
He said on camera. He's like, I'm saying on camera, I didn't ask to do this.
He's trying to tell Zach Wilson, you know who that is?
Yeah.
No, I don't know
No, I don't know who that is. Ridiculous.
Voice of God.
Ridiculous. Let's see. Joe Burrow says he's thinking about his football mortality because he said whenever injuries start to stack up, the mortality kind of comes into the back of your mind. So it's definitely something I've thought about and something I've had to fight through. He had torn ligaments in his throwing wrist. He, of course, got hurt here in his rookie year.
Was that his rookie or second year?
That was his rookie year.
Yeah.
It was his rookie year. He got hurt and tore his ACL.
Yep.
He's missed a lot of time
the one
for
year,
someone.
And the 1 year he wasn't hurt, they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right?
He says I'll be ready to go for the season, but he had torn ligaments in his wrist. This is adding up.
It is. Yep.
I mean, I never root for that because he's amazing, and
Right.
I love I would like great players to have long careers, but his is off to a really crazy start, like bad injuries.
Yep.
Missing tons of time. Bad injuries.
And he reminds you a little bit of like these quarterbacks that kind of go two balls to the wall, where it's like he makes some of these plays and you're kind of like, dude, just get down. There's no reason for you to be a hero. Remember he went into last year banged up, remember? Wasn't it a groin like heading into the season or something? It was something weird last year to start the year off.
Right. He didn't practice in the summer.
I want to say it was a groin or something like that.
He didn't practice in the summer, and I don't remember why.
But he was
there was
banged up
something
already,
where we weren't sure if he was going to make it to the first game. Remember, they started really slow on offense. Remember that?
Right.
They couldn't
Yes.
score. Like the first month, they couldn't score. Well, he was probably messed up because he rushed back. I can't remember what it was, but you're right. There was something that held him out all of camp.
Yep. Right.
And then he tore ligaments in his wrist, and
Yes.
that ruined his season.
And he was done with, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it doesn't go this way, and I hope he gets luckier, but it's starting to head down this direction and they're all different, too. That's the scarier part of the whole
exactly.
thing.
It's not some nagging injury.
The other one I saw today that I thought was interesting was Travis Kelce spoke to Ian Rappaport and said this about, why are you still doing this?
Right.
You've won a lot. You are in your 30s. You have this incredibly popular podcast. You have this incredibly popular girlfriend. You've got a lot on your plate. You could definitively walk. The world's your oyster right now. You don't have to do this. And this was his main quote. Obviously, I know there's opportunities outside of football for me, and I think you've got to keep in perspective. I'm still a little kid when I come into this building. He just likes it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's pretty amazing.
I mean, good for
He
him.
just likes it.
Good.
That's all it is. He said, I'm going to do this until the wheels fall off, and hopefully that doesn't happen anytime soon, but I can definitely understand that it's closer toward the end of the road than at the beginning of it, and I just got to make sure that I'm set up for after football as well. And he said he signed a 2-year extension.
Yep.
So that sounds about the right amount. He said this. He goes, Travis says he enjoys this too much to make any kind of plan for how he'll exit at this point. He's 35 now.
Yeah.
He said, at the same time, I'm a football player. I love playing in the NFL. This will always be my main focus. But outside of that, football ends for everybody. So kind of dipping your toes in the water and seeing what you like in different areas and different career fields. I think the offseason is the best chance for you to explore all of that and set yourself up for after football. I see it and I look at it and I go, it's there.
Right.
And I think that's what probably made Jason Kelce seemed closer to this. I think his wife wanted him to retire. I think he was dealing with more profound injuries.
Alignment is always banged up.
Sounds like it was more profound injuries than what his brother is dealing with. And like it was an open secret all year last year that this was probably going to be it. And he almost didn't come back in the first place. But it's there for both of them. It's obviously there. His brother's already on TV. They have a popular podcast. They have 8 million marketing opportunities. They're taking advantage of it. They tweeted something today where they're working with some beer company that I've never heard of.
Yeah, they're owners now. Yeah.
Owners of a beer company that I've never heard of, but I'm sure they'll sell a lot of beer because they have a lot of customers based on their fan bases. And who knows? Maybe it'll be at Taylor Swift concerts. Who knows?
Well, you know that the Swiftie girlfriends for their boyfriends are going to pick that beer up for them. So.
And then he said this, one final shot was this. He said, I love being accountable for the men and women in this building in the Chiefs kingdom. And I love the aspect of everybody counting on me to try to make that play for the team and just do the right things on the field and better judgment for the team. I don't think that anything from last year put more miles on me. It made me less of a player. I think it was all in all, it was just focus, being my own worst critic and capitalizing in situations that I should have. He was talking a little bit about cumulative wear and tear on his body. And remember, he wasn't putting up the same stats for a while there.
Yeah.
Playoffs rolled around. He became Travis Kelce again.
Exactly.
And then there was a circus following him by his own making, and one that he welcomed because he had Taylor Swift at his games and everything became this crazy thing. And then he became pop culture. And so I think he's talking about all of it at once, but he's turned around and he's like, I just like playing football.
Yeah. And not only that, I think it was the Bills game. Didn't he have a drop in that game? And people started kind of coming after him. And then from that point on, he didn't drop a pass, I think, the entire rest of the playoffs.
He was great.
Like,
he was
locked
great in the playoffs again.
Yeah.
His numbers were relatively low.
But he was still clutch. He was getting those third downs, those touchdowns.
Clutch. It's still there.
I think with him, too, I think you could probably tell by some of those quotes there, he knows he's still elite at that position.
Yeah.
It's so rare to find that elite type of athlete. And, I mean, didn't Gates play
He's
until
unusual.
Didn't Gates play until he was like 42?
He played a long time.
He played for a long time. So I think he's going, you know what, if I'm healthy and I'm still this crazy matchup, why not keep going? And look, Patrick Mahomes is his quarterback. Who wouldn't want to keep playing until you can't play anymore?
And he also
guy?
is in the prime of his career.
Right.
Mahomes has, assuming health, 3, 5, 7 years. Before you're really, unless he gets unlucky with health, really concerned about him.
Yes, exactly. No, and Mahomes too, though, like The athleticism is going to wear off at some point. I'm interested to see how Mahomes adapts to that. Does he just turn into Brady and become a crazy pocket passer? Wouldn't shock me because the guy is just amazing at everything he does.
Well,
right?
late in his career, John Elway, who was a crazy athletic quarterback, he was a game-changing type quarterback with his skill set, running and passing. He became a pocket passer late in his career.
That's right.
When they finally won the Super Bowl, that was a rush offense.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is really what it was.
Right. So
maybe he could become that.
I think what
that.
Kelce's saying, though, is like, as long as that guy's back there, I want to keep playing.
And
I don't blame
do
him.
it as long as he can.
Yeah, because, they already passed. He and Mahomes already passed Gronk and Brady for the playoff touchdown record. So, they're probably just thinking, let's keep piling this thing on because no one's going to touch us.
Won now? They've won 3?
Yes. Yeah.
Won 3, been to 4?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Lost to Tampa.
Yep.
Beat the 49ers twice.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And beat Philadelphia.
Eagles. Yep, beat the Eagles.
And in the last 2 have won at the last minute against these teams.
Correct. Yeah, one of them was overtime. Last one was overtime.
And actually, the first one I was actually at. That was right before the pandemic started. They were down 10 in the fourth quarter.
That's right.
They came back and won. Yeah, why stop doing that? And you know what? His very famous girlfriend seems to be perpetually in high school anyway and talks about loving having a guy on the football team as a boyfriend. So there's something about that. I think she just likes it. Well, she likes dating the guy wearing the jersey. Well, I think she likes it.
Well, that's a whole other story, but he actually does seem like a down-to-earth dude from Cleveland. That's
well, but I think she likes she likes him wearing the jersey and running around on the field. She's in high school. I'll listen to her music. It's all about how she got dumped in high school. All of it.
Yeah,
she's kind of grown up a little bit, but not that much. It's all about just being spurned as a young person.
As about the lowest level Swiftie of all time. She was dating the dude from the 1975 last summer. Have you seen what that dude looks like?
No.
He couldn't be more opposite.
Oh,
scrawny white British dude that has a bunch of weird tattoos.
Yeah, she's trying to figure it out. Well, I remember when she first started dating him, Kelce, I was like, I don't know if I believe this because he's so out of the typecast that she's normally with.
I'm trying to pull up a picture of this dude because you're going to be like, oh, that's the complete opposite. Yeah, here we go. That's probably one that is that's who she was dating before.
That's like me if I got some tattoos and let my hair go.
No.
Yeah. If I got some tattoos.
You did not just compare yourself to Matty Healy.
Look, let my hair go and wore ill-fitting polo shirts. That would be me.
There are 4 people that are cracking up right now.
I mean, we could pass.
You both have great hair. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah.
You chain smoke cigarettes too? Because that's
all right. Fine, I'll chain smoke cigarettes
on stage.
Chain smoke cigarettes, get some tattoos, let my hair go, wear ill-fitting polo shirts, and I could be that guy.
This is the weirdest crossover that's ever happened on this show.
I'll never look like Travis Kelce. I'm aware of that.
Brammy Healy.
Yeah. Well, I look more like this guy than I do Travis Kelce.
Yeah, duh.
Or
Absolutely.
Like she dated Jake Gyllenhaal. If I got my look right, I could look like him too.
Stop it.
I could. I did my hair a certain way, wore some certain clothes. I could pull that one off too.
I need you to go home tonight and tell your daughter I'm going to go as Matty Healy for Halloween next year and just see what she says.
See what she says? She's not going to like that?
Say that you and Heather are going as Matty Healy and Taylor Swift for Halloween next year. And just see.
She's not going to like that.
And just see what she
says about it?
And Archer can be Kelce.
Okay, yeah, he should be Kelce.
Just see what she thinks about that. Brammy Healy.
Oh, man.